Live boxing.
Anthony Joshua beat Jermaine Franklin in front of a capacity crowd of 18,000 at the O2. Those are the raw facts, but that is not the story of the fight. Oh no, the story of the fight is far more complex and far more complicated. This is the story of the fight, and this is also the 5 Live Boxing podcast with me, Steve Bunce. So Barry, we're going to hear from everybody involved in the fight. I mean, every single body involved. But I want to ask you, because I haven't actually spoken to you yet. What did you make of it? What did you make of the atmosphere? What did you make of the 12 rounds? What did you make of the performance?
Yeah, well, the atmosphere was fantastic, as always. The me and Joshua fight that hasn't been fantastic. The performance was... He boxed quite well, I thought. And I thought in stages very well. But still, we have no answers to the questions that we previously had. And I still think he's boxing like a man who's not committed to his attacks. And I think that was the reason why he landed some good shots against Franklin, and he hurt him a few times. But he's not thinking like he used to, where he commits to every
Instinctive
punch.
shots, lets his hands go, falls over if they don't land, rips them back when they do.
Because he's aware of what's coming back. And I don't want to say worry, because that sounds a little bit disrespectful. He's aware that something's going to come back, where before, he just always committed to it. He believed in himself and thought, but he's not taking the step with the front foot, which means he's too far out to throw the right hand. He can connect with it, but he knows something can come back.
But it needs to go another 6 inches.
He's not pushing right through the target.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I'm not quite sure we see that Joshua again. I think we have
That's
a new...
the debate, isn't it?
I don't see it, Steve. There might be one opponent that forces him to fight that way, or he gets beat.
Yeah, and that would be because he's in, he goes to the sort of proverbial trenches.
I know who the guy is. I got the guy in my mind.
Who is it?
Dillian White.
Yeah.
Because the way Dillian White throws his punches. So Joshua has to commit to his attacks and has to punch down the track, down the line, straight, to have success. If he doesn't do that, he gets caught with those hooks and uppercuts.
Well, we're going to hear from Dillian a bit later in this show, so don't worry about that. We'll get Dillian's take on it, and we'll get Dillian's forecast if they were to ever meet. But getting back to this fight here, I mean, I thought he won comfortably. Maybe not a shutout, but I thought he won minimum 10, probably 11 of the 12 rounds. Even though, oddly, Jermaine Franklin made them, it's an odd word to use, kind of competitive in a way. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Well, look, he was durable, and he was fighting back when Joshua was throwing. And I think that was important for Franklin to stay in the fight without winning anything. I would say that. And again, it's mad, because like with the Cody the other week, we're criticising a guy who's won almost every round. Yeah. But we hold him to a higher standard, unfortunately. That's how it is.
Did you want him to do more? Because we're going to hear from Joshua in a moment, and you might be shocked. Did you want him to do more?
Not so much do more. I think, first of all, he controlled the pace of the fight. You have to give him the credit for that. But the commitment, it's all mental, I feel, not physical with him. The commitment to his attack.
Sorry, Barry, for interrupting. Jermaine Franklin had said that. He said that, we can beat Joshua in his head. And all week long, these people were planning on that. They just thought they were getting a Joshua who wasn't quite right, wasn't quite back.
Well, you see Joshua now, like for a while now, you see Joshua, and it's still the same question that will be put to any fighter, as a trainer would put to any fighter, that you put pressure on him, and he won't like it. But easy said and done, because you still got to walk through those punches,
and he will let those shots go.
And he has a good jab, but he's not committing to that right hand, Steve. When he did commit to it, what a good shot it was. And also, I would say this as well. In the past, if he landed with a good right hand, you knew there was a follow up, and now he's waiting to see the reaction of the shot before he follows up.
Yeah.
And that's a confidence thing.
I thought that with the right hand. I mean, he landed some cracking rounds. I thought there was a counter. There was a counter in about round 6, which might have been the best punch he's thrown for several fights. But the problem was, it wasn't a full-on shot, so it didn't fall all the way through. It only went a certain distance. And what would have happened? You're absolutely right. Is that in previous times, Barry, there would have been another punch that connected after that. There would have been a follow-up punch. There would have been a second shot. We're backstage here recording this, obviously, so we just moved away from where they're dismantling parts of the ring to we're in a sort of area backstage. We look down the tunnel here, and I can see the mass of people outside AJ's dressing room waiting to get in, waiting to speak to him. Barry, now before I hear from him, Before I hear from him, I'm going to say, was there a point though when you thought now's the time you can step on it here, or are you thinking it's a good 12 rounds? Which, and the way I talked about that live was he probably got what he needed, but it wasn't what we wanted.
No, he got 12 rounds where he controlled the pace, and that's fair enough, and that's good for him. But he's had. That's 36 rounds he's had now, and so he didn't need the rounds. I don't feel.
Sure.
They were.
Did he need the rounds with Derek James? Sorry for interrupting.
Well, maybe Steve. I think people still complained he was too heavy, and I understand that. But I think I think the tactics they had, the weight would have been an advantage, because I think they did want to be proactive. They did want to be put pressure. They did want to make you feel it, the power. But I think he got in there. Whatever you learn, you get in there. If you're uncomfortable, you go back to default mode, where you feel natural to you. Yeah. And the new Joshua, the natural is to box a little bit more cautiously, which is fine. It worked, and it worked for him. But that's not the guy who we think. See, we're looking at every fight he has. We're looking at it with a view of how would that performance rate against Wilder, Usyk again, Joshua, and or Joe Joyce now.
And is that harsh then, or is that unfair?
No, it's not. That's the level he's at. He's that good a fighter. So, and you think that the boxing like that will make it hard for him.
But we were talking there about, we have to, and I understand why, we have to compare and think about what he would do against those big names.
Yeah, but you said about there moments in there where you think he could have put his foot on the pedal. And there were numerous moments where he could have committed. But he's just not quite there yet. And is that a worry or not? I think maybe he needs to gel with his trainer more. But we've been saying that now continuously for like that's the third fight we've been saying that. So but again, he's held at a higher standard. We're critical all the time. He wins the fight relatively comfortable, pretty convincingly as he wins. But there was moments there where he could have been more dominant, and the old Joshua would have been.
Well, that's interesting, Barry, because I got up in the ring afterwards to speak to him, and I could see as he was walking across to me that he wasn't maybe the Joshua I expected to see coming towards me. And once I started speaking to him, I certainly didn't get the Joshua I expected.
No knockout, so no good.
You're being that harsh?
It's a brutal sport, and knockouts is everything. But yeah, no knockout, so I'm not too happy, to be fair.
And I know he's got a good chin, and you still call him with shots. Why wasn't there a knockout? Could you have done more? Look, I know it's the immediate after. Could you have done more?
So there's two reasons. It's one, either my punch power or his durable chin. They're the only two things, to be fair.
So we know you've still got the punch power. You haven't lost your punch power on your stay in Dallas. If anything, your punch power might have improved, because Derek knows how to bring out the best in you. So it's his chin. Maybe could you have thrown more shots, maybe?
Yeah, I could have. So there's no excuse. I could have and I didn't, but I will. That's the whole point in coming back again and just getting on to the next opportunity, you know what I mean? So I didn't, I should have, and I will.
You're being quite harsh on yourself.
You have to be your own biggest critic. You have to be your own biggest critic, if I'm honest. If you want to progress, I can't be here that was brilliant, and then go and chill out, you know?
So could you have let the left hook maybe go after one or two of the rights, or drop the right hand more? Is that what you're saying? You could...
100%. But you know what else with him as well? He's a decent counter puncher. So the right hand weren't landing. So the right hand weren't landing.
It's your father rubbing you down.
So the right hand weren't landing. So I really couldn't. Yeah, that's one of my most powerful shots. But we'll build.
So let's throw it forward. I'm not going to talk about super fights, ridiculous fights. I'm talking about when you're going back with Derek. Then is that something you're going to play in on quick? Because you talk about building.
Whatever my coach wants to work on, I'll work on.
So are you happy with Derek in the corner? Are you happy with that?
I really look, and I want to say I don't want to put my. I think I get a lot of pressure. So I'd rather not put my pressure on Derek. Anything that happens in this ring moving forward, it's all on me.
Was there too much pressure tonight on you to perform and to look good? Everyone was saying the Tyson Fury fight only works if you get rid of him in 5 or 6 rounds. That's pressure. Let's get it right. You're a big boy. We're big boys. That's pressure.
I don't know. There is pressure, but it is what it is. You want this opportunity. If you want to be a fighter, you got to deal with the pressure, innit?
So Barry, a very honest Anthony Joshua there, doubting his power, and acknowledging that, yes, he could have done more. So no sugarcoating, absolute raw honesty.
Yeah, the power's there. It's the commitment with the feet. So he's throwing the jab, he's not stepping in behind the jab, which means he's not... So that if you step in behind the jab, when you throw that right hand, you're punching behind the back of the head, you're punching through the target with commitment. So he's punching, he's not moving the foot with the jab. So when he hits with a good jab. When he throws the right hand, he's not only just touching the target, he's leaning back, waiting for something to come back. He's expecting
So what looks like a great shot maybe from the cheap seats is actually not that great a shot.
It's a good, clean scoring shot, but it lacks the power and the weight you need to be, to start the downfall of your opponent, to get him out to there, to get the stoppage. But he has the power. We know he has the power, and he did. He had Franklin a few times. He wasn't in.
There was an
major
uppercut in
danger.
about round 9 or something.
Even if it was good right hands, Franklin could take a good shot. And also, Franklin's short, and he literally has no neck.
Yeah.
And he puts his chin literally by his chest and absorbs the shot that way. So there's all those things into play. But you just tend to think Joshua could do better.
Yeah, you tend to think...
Victim of his own success in the past,
and
unfortunately.
part of that is the pressure, part of that is the thousands of people turning out, and part of that is the fact that there is still much expectation of him. Interesting that Joshua said to me there about, I'm taking the pressure, not my coach, Derek James. I also caught up Barry at ringside because it was a bit chaotic at ringside. There was a sort of post-fight melee, which I managed to get myself involved in. I did manage to catch up with Derek James and put it to him, or just basically ask Derek what he thought. What was his assessment of what he'd seen working with Joshua for the first time?
I didn't care about how he won. I just cared that he won. Yes. And we can go back and build and build and build.
So you're quite happy. You've got 12 good rounds. You've worked in the corner. Right. So you're quite happy with what you're seeing going forward, Derek?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I think that he could have picked it up a little bit and stopped Franklin because I think Franklin was ready to go. But at the same time, hey, if he didn't, I'm okay with that.
So there's no panic in the corner. And did you like what you were seeing and hearing from AJ? Because you might have been in the gym with him, but suddenly he's coming back. It's round 7, it's round 8. Everyone's getting naturally tired. He's a big man. But were you happy with what you were hearing from him in the corner?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Because he really wasn't saying anything with me doing the talking. So he just listened, and it was okay. I wasn't upset. Listen, all I care about is the victory. I don't care how we get it, whether he knocked him out, whether he did whatever, because we have a foundation to build on. The defense was really good. He started counterpunching a little bit because he started getting a little comfortable. So what happens is, more and more you'll see him get better and better and better.
So we move on to AJ Derek 2 now. We've had AJ Derek 1 in front of 17, 18,000 people.
Significant. Everyone is significant. Because listen, my everything is on the line, just like his everything is on the line.
So going forward, Derek, I'm going to throw it out there. Where would you like to see AJ in 3 or 4 months? Can you think of an opponent, or am I putting you under too much pressure?
No, really, I always am not involved with it to the sense where I just care what he wants. Whoever he wants, that's what I want for him. I'm not a guy who picks it. I want this guy, I want that guy. But I think that it's all about him getting what he wants.
Derek James there, AJ's new trainer. And that was kind of what I expected to hear from him. The idea that we're building the foundation. In fact, he seemed a bit shocked that maybe I expected, or some of us expected, more.
Well, the reason we expect more, because he hasn't got a brand new fighter who's just turned pro. He's got a ready-made package who needs tweaking. See, the whole thing with Anthony Joshua, I would say, is there's not massive changes you have to make. Yeah. It's just small improvements.
Try a little bit here,
small improvements that will make a massive difference.
Yes.
A positive difference to him, that's all. And most of it's in the mental makeup, I feel, and believing in himself like he once did. That's all it is. It's not a lot, but the little bits that he needs to do make a huge difference. And without those, he's not the same force that he once was.
It's interesting you should say that, Barry, about whether or not he could ever be the force he used to be, because Carl Frotti was working with us on 5 Live on our commentary. He's adamant, and he's got very strong feelings about where Joshua is actually going from here. Here's Carl after the fight.
I don't understand why he's still fighting. I really don't, because it's a dangerous sport. When I got my kids, I thought to myself, you know what? I've done enough. I've made enough. And now I can retire and go out on the crest of the wave, which was Wembley Stadium. Anthony Joshua's back in the ring. He said he's motivated by money. Money can't be a motivation when you've already earned over 100 million quid.
Yeah, I guess that's not enough, isn't it?
So
like money doesn't become enough. And when you're thinking about champions, like we say, when it gets dark, when it gets deep, what is their why? Where do they go in terms of really digging down into their gut to say, I need to get out of this hole and I need to get this
Listen,
win.
desire is not driven by money. It's just not. It's as simple as that. You have to want to win them world titles. You've got to want to get through the hard times in the ring. You've got to be able to climb off the canvas. I think the first time Anthony Joshua gets any kind of adversity, if he fights Deontay Wilder and gets hit on the chin and goes down, I think he'll stay down. Because I'm not seeing anything in that mindset and that performance that tells me that he wants to be a world champion again.
So Carl Froch there, Barry, in no uncertain terms, saying that he thinks that maybe it's time for AJ to call it a day. He's got the money in the bank. He's got 2 world titles. He's got a gold medal. Is that too harsh, or is that...
It's always an option because what's your ambition? See, his ambition can't be money. He has enough money. And I know he said he's a prize fighter, and I understand all that in the press conferences leading up. He's in it for the money, but obviously he's in it for his pride, and he still has ambitions to want to rule the world. Because once you've been at the top of the tree, it's not enough to not be there again. You always want to be there. You always want that taste and that feeling of being a champion of the world, being the king of the world. So he wants that.
Yeah.
And he don't want to see the people around him but basking in the glory that was once his.
Or retire for a year and at 33 and a half or 34 think these guys are all older than me.
And also, great for us, but also great for him. Domestically, we're almost ruling the roost, except for Alexander Usyk. So to see that, it must be hard for him.
Yeah.
So I understand that maybe that's why he wants to go on. But Carl's point is valid. What does he have left to prove? He's been there already. He's earned enough money. He's as famous. He ticked all the boxes he needs to tick, and he's not the same fighter he once was. Yeah. Or he's a different fighter. He might have been a better fighter, but I think
he's a different fighter.
Yes,
absolutely. Barry, don't go anywhere. So we've heard already from Anthony Joshua. We've heard from Derek James, his trainer. We had that little snippet there from Carl Froch. We're going to take a little break here. When we come back, we're going to hear from Eddie Hearn, and it's maybe not the type of Eddie Hearn interview that you're used to.
Match of the Day.
Top 10 podcast.
The Match of the Day Top 10 podcast is back with bigger debates, bigger topics, and bigger laughs from this man. Yes, Micah Richards is back, along with myself and Alan Shearer for Series 8 of Match of the Day Top 10. Only on the BBC iPlayer and BBC Sounds, where if you subscribe now, you'll find the rest of our box sets to listen to.
The Match of the Day Top 10 podcast.
Listen only on BBC Sounds.
So when the fight was over and after AJ had done his commitments, his interview commitments in the ring, he got out of the ring and went into the crowd where he was posing for pictures, having hugs, doing selfies, taking selfies. It was quite extraordinary. Meanwhile, I went backstage, and I mean, I'm proper backstage. Manny and I went backstage, and we grabbed hold of Eddie Hearn, and I could also tell from Eddie Hearn's face, just like I could tell from AJ's face 30 minutes earlier, I could also tell that, he had some stuff on his mind. Here's Eddie Hearn talking to me backstage at the O2 less than 20 minutes after the fight had finished.
It was a solid performance, but not spectacular. There's no point trying to gas him up. I mean, he knows that. Franklin has a great chin. He's very durable. It's a tough style for AJ because it's a much smaller guy who likes to slip and fight on the inside at times. AJ should have boxed more on the inside. I felt like he should have been more dominant with his size on the inside. But he's also coming off 2 defeats. His confidence is low. I think it's still low from that conversation.
Absolutely.
And I think that it's going to take him time to gel with Derek James. And the tricky thing now will be, do you jump in? I believe that once he raises the levels in opposition, it'll raise his performance as well. But now's the tough part. Because do you go into the Fury and the Wilder fight as a big underdog, or do you continue? He's had 3 trainers in 3 fights. So really, he needs time to gel with Derek James. You can't just have one fight and it all fall into place. But it was a solid win. He won easy, if not spectacular, but on to the next.
And what becomes the factor in the decision, and is it as basic as the money, Ed? I'm looking at that fight, and I agree with you. I think another fight against a guy who's a good fighter on his way to those big guys, I think that prepares him and makes him a better fighter against an Usyk or against the Joshua. Against the Fury, excuse me.
I think, ultimately you wait and wait and wait, and then fights disappear. So there may be an opportunity to do the Tyson Fury fight next. If it's there, it's going to be very difficult for AJ to not take that fight because he may think he may never get it. Look, the sensible thing is to have another fight with Derek James to gel and to improve. I think Dillian Whyte is a great option. I think it's a great fight. The first one was epic. But at the same time, everything's about timing. Money, not so. I don't think he's looking at the money at this stage in his career, but at the end of the day, I think he's looking at big fights. And I think he'll want a big fight. I think he'll want to put himself under pressure. He's very hard on himself. I know he'll go away and he'll say, I need to improve, I need to do this, I need to do that. But there was a lot of pressure tonight. that was his career on the line in there. And I think he was apprehensive at times, potentially for that reason.
And you know he's not in the dressing room. You know he's out there in the crowd, don't you, doing selfies?
He'll do that for about 2 hours. But, this camp's been good for him in that respect, because normally he does that every day. And he'll go back to Texas, he'll work hard, and he'll improve. There'll be a lot of people that are harsh and critical about the performance. I thought it was a 7 out of 10. Solid, not spectacular, but a big win under pressure.
So Eddie Hearn there, Barry, giving AJ 7 out of 10. And, well, basically not sounding very happy. Sounding very much like AJ, which is, I'm quite happy. There's no topspin involved with what we witnessed here over 12 rounds at the O2. There is no topspin involved. AJ was harsh on himself and Eddie was harsh on the performance.
Yeah, well, 7 out of 10 from Eddie is probably a 4 out of 10 in reality.
Absolutely.
So I would say, and I think that's a little bit harsh, to be honest. He boxed well, but they're on about selling himself. I think this fight, for me, ultimately, this fight was geared up for Anthony Joshua to have a good performance, to sell himself.
To sell the Tyson Fury fight at midnight. That was the whole story. That was the narrative all week.
Yeah, I think so. And he never quite did that. So I think that's where they're looking at it from it, in that point of view. But I don't know. I think everyone...
not being as harsh as AJ was on himself or Eddie was.
People have to I think everyone has to reassess who AJ is now. That's a very good point. We're all waiting for the old AJ. We say the old AJ. I'm getting on my nerves myself saying it. We're waiting on that AJ, pre-Ruiz, to come back. He's gone.
Barry, did you think he might come back this week, with the chat and the talk? Were you expecting him tonight, AJ?
I was hoping, but I was always saying he's got to believe in himself when he throws the jab. He's got to commit with the jab, and he didn't enough. And once you don't commit with the jab, then all the other punches don't fall into place like they should.
They're going to be short as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, and that's it. Because that was his bread and butter, the jab, the double jab, the right hand. He was never this destroyer that everyone makes out he was. He was always a well-structured fighter, in and out with his feet. But he had a good jab. Yeah. He had a great jab. He was strong.
And that set people
it was an
up,
old heavyweight jab.
The hands go.
Yeah. He needs to watch. Forget about all the stuff he's doing. Just go and watch 80s heavyweights. Yeah. Even.
Hey, how about watching? He could get round. Why doesn't he go back and watch himself against Vladimir Klitschko? He wants to be involved in a slugfest where people have to go to extremes. That was it.
Well, the thing is, no one wants to be involved in one of those.
He does.
But he knew that that was almost a good thing for him when that happened, because he knew he could do it. Yeah. But now...
Maybe he's not so sure.
That's the furthest thing from his mind. That's the last place he wants to be.
Yeah. You heard Eddie there talking about going forward. He wasn't closing the door on the Tyson Fury fight, because that's obviously there have been conversations. We know that. That's not secret, and perhaps they'll continue, and perhaps people will look at the figures, look at the reaction. AJ, as Eddie said, would have to take it if it was there and the conditions were the same. We understand that. But reading between the lines, maybe I'm reading too much into it, I think, like Eddie, I agree, another fight, and the Dillian White fight is the one that we're throwing out there, would be ideal, would be good. I think he needs some more time. Certainly Derek James thinks he needs some more time, and I think AJ probably thinks he needs some more time. However, he might not get the time if the Tyson Fury fight is that close. Hey-ho, stranger things have happened in this boxing business. Anyway, not too far away from where Eddie was standing when he was talking to me, I noticed Dillian White. So I wandered over, grabbed hold of Dillian and asked him what he'd made of the performance. And I've got to tell you, before you start to hear this, he took about 5 seconds. He took a deep breath, looked up at the ceiling, took about 5 seconds to just think about what he was saying. He was thinking carefully. Here's Dillian on AJ.
Joshua's lost all his aggression and killing instincts. The ability is so there, the boxing skills so there, and everything's so there. He looks the part, he shapes up well, but every time Franklin's shaped like he's going to hit him, he hesitates and he's a bit, I never seen him like that before, but he's a bit shell-shocked. Understandably, he's come off 2 losses, but I've come off knockout defeat. I came off knockout defeat of Franklin when he was undefeated, and I pressured him in the last 2 rounds, and that's what sealed the fight for me. Obviously I won 4 of 12 rounds, but the last 2 rounds really is what made the difference. The last 2 rounds Joshua was very hesitant, and he hurt him in the 11th as well, I think.
Were you a bit shocked sometimes that he got himself in position, he let 1 shot go, 2 shots go, and then that was it? He didn't let the 3rd or the 4th go?
Early signs of a fighter who doesn't want to do it anymore. He's just doing it for whatever he's doing it for, whatever he's doing it to prove But he's achieved a lot. Let's be honest, he's achieved a lot. So if he doesn't do it anymore, I think he should stop.
No,
give me my rematch before he stops.
Yeah, no, so and Eddie there mentioned the fact that there was a potential rematch. Is that something that's now being, not just talked about by you, but is that something that's being discussed behind closed doors?
I have no idea, man.
I hope so.
I have no idea. They said the winner of that fight was meant to fight. Me and Franklin, the winner of that was meant to fight Joshua, and they fought losers, so that shows you how much faith there is in boxing. You understand?
Now, and Joshua was really harsh on himself after the fight, and I've interviewed him a lot after fights. He was harsher than I've ever known him. He said it wasn't there. Maybe I've lost my punch power. He was really flat, really down, and that could be a good thing, because at least you're not saying, oh, it's okay, I wanted 12 rounds and I'm happy with 12 rounds.
Listen, boxing's about entertainment. All you got to do is entertain, but that's just his mentality. He's always questioning himself, and that's the difference to me. He's always questioning himself. I have a defeat, I come back, I show up. I don't think, my punch power, but I'm honest with myself. I change what is wrong in the camp. I break it down. I say, you know what? I need more experience. I need more conditioning. I need more this, more that. And I'm a realist. Difference, I'm a realist.
Did you think tonight, thanks for your time, did you think tonight that we would see the old vicious Joshua? And do you think that we'll ever see it again after tonight? Two-part question.
I honestly thought we would, because Franklin is there to make Joshua look good. Franklin was someone they picked him because obviously me and him, the way he looked against me, obviously it was a good fight. It was a good competitive fight, but they're thinking, okay, Joshua is taller than Dillian. Joshua throws more straight punches than Dillian. He should be able to pick Franklin apart. But obviously, it just shows how good Franklin is. What's really disappointing is Joshua go to over in Franklin. He was working. I go to over in Franklin. I spent 6 weeks with Buddy. You know what I mean? And I spent 6 weeks with Buddy. And Buddy's a guy that he wants you to work on the basics. He was testing me in that fight. He was testing me if I can take the instruction in and follow exactly what he wanted me to do.
So, Dillian, if the Joshua fight doesn't materialise for you, if he chases Fury or chases someone else, when might you be back, and who's on your shopping list now?
I need to fight someone. I want to fight in June. Obviously, there's Carlos Stackham there, there's Derek Cesaro there, there's Pulev, someone like that. I don't have to see who's there and who's also willing to fight. What people forget is they say, you should fight him, you should fight him. I've been chasing Wilder for 1,000 years. I've been chasing Fury for a long time. I got to fight with him. I'm chasing AJ for 8-9 years. I'm chasing all the top guys, but I can only do what I can do. If they don't want to fight, I can't force them to fight. You understand? So I have to fight who's there.
So Dillian White there, I thought being quite fair, to be honest with you. Fairly critical and quite fair, but also not knowing really what AJ there is out there, but clearly wanting to fight. Is that a fight, if you were involved in the AJ thinking, making fights process, is that a fight that you might push for?
Yes, and this is the reasons why, because we all want Joshua to commit to his attacks. The way that White throws his punches, they loop, he swings, he commits to his attacks. So, and I always thought this, and it happened in the first fight a little bit, Joshua throws neat punches down the line. So there's always a big gap for
inside of the looping
There's
shots.
always a big gap for him to land. So, and he'll know this, if he doesn't commit, because the thing with White, once he commits to his attacks, he throws one, he throws four. So they're all going to rain on you. So you have to, if you don't commit to your attacks, you're just going to take
He's
punches.
going to walk through you.
Yeah, he's going to beat you up. So he knows he has to do that. And so I think it'll force him to do what he needs to do. This should have been this fight. Now, we're not talking about it. That fight
Which is what Dillian was saying. What about me? It's meant to be the winner. I was the winner.
And if he can't do that, then he gets beat, and he certainly knows where he is now, and where he might stay. But if he can get that, and that'll tick a box mentally in his head, I can do it again. Yeah. I can commit to my right hand. I can commit to throwing a left hook after I throw the right hand. He never did that tonight. He never committed to a three-punch combination, maybe once or twice. But that was only after he... No, before he was always... Look, after he landed a good right hand, there was always a punch coming back from Joshua. Not so much tonight.
So the positives tonight are that he got 12 rounds and he was with his trainer, Derek James. The negatives are that he got 12 rounds when he didn't really need 12 rounds, because obviously he got 24 rounds with Usyk. So let's throw it forward, Barry. We've heard from the man himself, we've heard from the trainer, we've heard Carl Froch being as forthright and honest and raw as Carl Froch often is. We've heard from Eddie Hearn, we've heard from Dillian White there. Dillian White being, amazingly balanced. We've heard from him. Let me ask you, going forward, where does he go? Where do you think he will go? And will we start to see any difference? It's a serious question. I'm making you earn your money tonight, son.
It's a difficult question because I'm not...
It's nearly sunrise out there, boy.
Like I've been saying, I don't think we see the old Joshua. I think Dillian White's fight helps or exposes, either way. If it helps, then I think there's a build back to the top. But my honest opinion, I don't think he beats Wilder. I always thought he would beat Wilder. No, I don't. Not because of him.
The fight tonight convinced you that, or the Usyk fights?
No, Wilder getting beat by Fury in the third fight convinced me of that, because Wilder showed how tough he was.
Yeah, good point.
And that's the difference. Before that,
I always drop him, he'll come back.
Yes, I always thought that he would break his heart. He never beats Usyk, and he doesn't beat Joshua. So
he doesn't beat Fury.
Yeah, so for me, he never beats Usyk. He never beats Wilder, though I thought he would have before, but I don't think he will now.
What made you change your mind then?
Wilder's defeat in the third fight against Fury, because he showed how tough he was, and I think that's a problem for Joshua, and he never beats Fury. And those
Did you think he would have beaten Fury at one point?
No, I always pick Fury over Joshua, always actually. Just stylistically, it's not a good fit for him. Even the negative Fury back before the Wilder first fight, second fight, I thought he would negate all of Joshua's work.
Would a devastating victory in 5 or 6 rounds tonight have made you change your opinion on any of those 3 big names, Barry?
No, because he's boxing at a different level right now. We don't know how good Franklin is, but I think that's a good assessment. But it's the road on the way back. It's the right step on the way back. So you'll see that's even though he's not boxing Usyk, of course, I understand that, but it's a more positive approach to a fight. And that's the whole theme of the fight, the whole theme of the night. It wasn't a massive positive. He boxed well, like he did against Usyk the second time, but still lost convincingly. But it wasn't a positive outlook on the fight. He wasn't going in that direction. He was trying to box smart again, but not committed to his attacks. It's the same thing. I'm going around in circles here, but that's what it is.
No, that's fine. Because in all fairness, if you don't mind me saying so, I think there's going to be a lot of us going around in a lot of circles, because we're having a very similar type of conversation to the one we had in Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah last year, after that fight.
But just think this might be the point. This might just be him. This is him now. Yes. This might be him. A good fighter who will beat a lot of people, just won't be the very top. This might be where he is. Might be.
And the question is, will Anthony Joshua settle for being that man? A man that could beat lots of heavyweights, but can't beat the 3 big men in front of him. And that means he'll never get back to those glory days when he had his hands raised as the world heavyweight champion. Can he be that fighter? Would he want to be that fighter? Is Carl Froch right that maybe Joshua should walk away now? Or is Derek James right with his optimism that, hey, we're building on something, we'll get there? It's been a strange night. It's been an entertaining night. It's been an emotional night. It's been a lively night. It's been a frustrating night. It's been a classic night of fights. Thanks to everybody that's worked on the 5 Live broadcast tonight, both the live fight and the actual podcast, especially Barry Jones, who's put in about 5 or 6 shifts. Anthony Joshua, he's given us so much since the Olympics in 2012. He's given us highs, he's given us unbelievable lows, he's given us magnificent nights outdoors with fights where both men are on the floor. Will there be more nights like that in the future? Who knows? I'm not sure Anthony Joshua knows. Will the people come back? I think they will. What a business the heavyweight division is. Anthony Joshua, the winner tonight, beating Jermaine Franklin over 12 rounds, winning by 118 to 111 and 117 to 111. That was 2 judges scoring that way. So it was a conclusive victory, but it's raised more questions than it answered. I've been Steve Bunce, and this has been a very special 5 Live boxing show.
Let's get ready to rumble!
5 Live Boxing.